Welcome to Ethiopia Insights. Today we're diving into an article by Alex de Waal and Mulugeta Berhe titled Ethiopia Back on the Brink, How Abiy's Reckless Ambition and Emirati Meddling Are Fueling Chaos in the Horn. Let's get started. In the aftermath of the Ethiopian Civil War, often termed as the Tigray War, Ethiopia is caught in a vortex of multifaceted crises. The conflict has claimed the lives of over 500,000 soldiers and approximately 360,000 civilians, making it one of the deadliest conflicts since the Cold War's end. The atrocities and sexual violence committed during this war have left deep scars on the Tigray region and its people. Despite a ceasefire agreement between the Ethiopian government and the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, peace remains elusive. The government is now grappling with a new rebellion in the Amhara region, with the same groups that were once allies in the Tigray War now turning against the government. The Oromia region, the country's largest and most populous region, also continues to face an ongoing insurgency. The situation is further complicated by the emergence of numerous local armed groups fighting the government, rendering vast areas of the country inaccessible. The northern region, including Tigray, is facing the grim reality of famine. According to the United Nations, nearly a quarter of the population, about 30 million people, require emergency food assistance. Without significant humanitarian relief, these people are at risk of starvation in the coming months. Adding to the domestic crises, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has incited new tensions with neighboring Somalia and has become entangled in Sudan's civil war. Threatening gestures towards Eritrea, an ally in the Tigray War, have further heightened the regional tensions. Foreign patrons such as the United Arab Emirates are fueling the crisis by providing arms and money to Ethiopia, potentially dragging the region into a proxy conflict. The world needs to urgently engage with Ethiopia's crisis. The United States, in particular, should increase its humanitarian assistance to Ethiopia and urge its Middle East partners to end their damaging rivalry in the Horn of Africa. The support for an all-inclusive Ethiopian national dialogue is crucial to prevent the country from further violent fragmentation. The Prosperity Party, led by Abiy, should participate in this dialogue but without veto power over other participants or the agenda. The aim of such a dialogue should be to prevent further violent fragmentation and help Ethiopia recover from its current crisis. Looking at Ethiopia's history, we find a paradoxical blend of reverence for the nation and its rulers, contrasting with periods of divisive fragmentation. The country's near unbroken history as an independent state and its brief occupation by fascist Italy are celebrated. However, the nation is a patchwork of diverse ethnic groups, each with its own aspirations and grievances. During what is known as the Age of Princes in the 18th and early 19th centuries, Ethiopia was a land of rival fiefdoms with no central authority. Modern Ethiopia began its formation in the 1860s under Emperor Theodros, who centralized power after defeating his rivals. His successor, Menelik II, built an army that repulsed the Italians and expanded the imperial territory. Emperor Haile Selassie further solidified central power after World War II, reigning for several decades. However, the late 20th century saw Ethiopia teetering on the brink of disintegration. The army overthrew the aging Haile Selassie in 1974, leading to 17 years of warfare with multiple insurgent groups under the military junta led by Colonel Mengistu Haile Mariam. Despite receiving extraordinary Soviet support and amassing the largest army in sub-Saharan Africa, Mengistu could only prolong the conflict, leading to devastation and famine. The collapse of Mengistu's Soviet patron eventually ended this era, but not before Ethiopia had started fracturing. Eritrea won its independence from Ethiopia in 1991, marking a significant shift in the region's dynamics. The Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front, EPRDF, then led the country from the 1990s to the late 2010s, a period of relative stability and growth despite its undemocratic rule. The EPRDF, following an authoritarian development approach modeled on South Korea and Taiwan, transformed Ethiopia from a land of hunger and conflict into a prosperous state, a bulwark against extremism, and a vital partner in international peace and security. However, much of this progress has been reversed since Abiy Ahmed became Prime Minister in 2018. the nation is once again grappling with insurgencies, famine, and regional tensions, highlighting the cyclical nature of Ethiopia's history and the paradox of its national identity. As we look to the future, it's clear that understanding this complex history is vital in navigating the path towards peace and stability. As we transition from Ethiopia's past into its present, we find ourselves in the midst of the Abiy paradox. Abiy Ahmed, the nation's current leader, initially brought great hope to Ethiopians. A member of Ethiopia's largest ethnic group, the Oromo, Abiy quickly embarked on a series of highly publicized reforms after ascending to power. He was celebrated, both nationally and internationally, for his efforts to modernize and privatize state-owned telecommunications and banking, as well as for his peace pact that officially ended the war with neighboring Eritrea, earning him a Nobel Peace Prize in 2019. However, the initial optimism soon began to fade as it became clear that the reforms were superficial, merely an icing on a cake of deep-rooted issues. Abiy's policies began to strain the federal system that had maintained Ethiopia's complex ethnic mosaic under a strong government in Addis Ababa. As Ethiopia transitioned from a traditional agrarian society to a rapidly developing capitalist economy, ethnic boundaries clashed with the growth of cities and the movements of a mobile workforce, leading to new intergroup tensions. Abiy's response to this was a shift from a unifying approach to a divisive strategy. Despite his Oromo background, his first conflict was with the Oromo, leading to marginalization, detainment, and military repression. This resulted in ongoing conflict in many parts of Oromia, but it was Abiy's second war that brought true devastation. With the backing of his new ally, Eritrean dictator Isaias Afwerki, Abiy confronted the Tigray People's Liberation Front, which had previously been the dominant party in the EPRDF. This conflict, euphemistically referred to as a law enforcement operation by Addis Ababa, led to massacre, pillage, and starvation. Tigrayans formed a defense force that expelled the occupying armies and even threatened the capital. By mid-2021, the International Famine Review Committee warned of an imminent famine in Tigray without a ceasefire and immediate large-scale aid. However, the government responded by denying the hunger crisis and diverting food aid to other purposes. As we explore the Abiy illusion, we see a leader who promised reform but delivered conflict, a leader who won a peace prize but presides over a country on the brink of famine.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
This is the paradox of Ethiopia today, a nation of great promise, yet caught in a cycle of conflict and hunger. As we dive into the aftermath of the Tigray War, we are met with a harsh reality. The November 2022 ceasefire agreement, though a glimmer of hope, has failed to restore peace and stability. Many of its provisions remain unfulfilled, with areas still controlled by Eritrean troops. Over 1 million Tigrayans are displaced, living in camps, while 2.4 million are on the brink of famine. The Ethiopian National Defense Forces, having suffered immense losses, is now largely composed of conscripts. In the wake of the Tigray War, regional police forces have morphed into de facto ethnic armies, fueling further division and conflict. As the National Army stumbled, a new insurgency in the Amhara region ignited. The Amhara militia, once allies of Abiy, felt betrayed and rebelled. Abiy's response was another self-defeating law enforcement operation, leading to indiscriminate violence and further unrest. The economic toll is palpable. Inflation is rampant, foreign exchange is scarce, and food insecurity is widespread. Despite Abiy's claims of Ethiopia becoming a wheat exporter, the reality is a stark contrast. A massive theft of food aid involving government officials has undermined the credibility of his assertions. As we navigate through this chaos, we encounter a nation that, once a beacon of growth and stability, is now teetering on the brink of collapse. The Abiy paradox continues to be a grim testament to the stark contrast between promise and reality. Moving into the intricate web of international relations that underpin Ethiopia's current crisis, we must turn our attention towards the United Arab Emirates. Despite the escalating chaos, Addis Ababa has managed to maintain a semblance of normality, a feat largely attributed to the backing of the UAE. The Emirates have vested geopolitical interests in the Horn of Africa and have been key in propping up Abiy's regime. Their financial and military support has emboldened the leader, leading to aggressive moves that have only added fuel to the ongoing conflicts. Yet this support comes at a cost. The risk of a proxy war across the Horn of Africa is palpable, as regional powers vie for influence and control. The UAE's involvement has also led to potential flashpoints that threaten to escalate the crisis further. The insurgency in Amhara, once allies of Abiy, has been met with brutal force, leading to further unrest. As food insecurity rises sharply, the potential for food riots and a broader social breakdown looms ominously on the horizon. The nation that once stood as a beacon of growth and stability in Africa now teeters on the brink, its future hanging in the balance. As we transition from the intricate geopolitics of the UAE's involvement, we begin to unravel the aftermath of the Ethiopian civil war. This conflict, which has been waged largely out of sight, has left deep scars on the nation and its people. The civil war has not only led to a devastating humanitarian crisis, but also fractured the country along ethnic lines. The Tigrayans, Oromos, Amharas, and various other ethnic groups have been embroiled in a bitter struggle for power, exacerbating the existing tensions. In the midst of the chaos, the Ethiopian government's response has been marked by brutal crackdowns and widespread human rights abuses. Reports of massacres, sexual violence, and forced displacement have become all too common, painting a grim picture of the ground realities. Yet, these atrocities remain largely unreported and unacknowledged by the international community. The civil war has also had a crippling effect on Ethiopia's economy. The country's infrastructure has been severely damaged, and the economy is on the brink of collapse. Inflation is rampant, and food and fuel prices are skyrocketing, pushing millions of Ethiopians towards the brink of starvation. In the midst of Ethiopia's escalating crises, the silence from the West, particularly the United States, is deafening. With global attention riveted on conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza, the Ethiopian crisis has been largely sidelined. The United States and other aid donors have fallen short in addressing the urgent food emergency that now threatens millions of lives and livelihoods in Ethiopia. It's time for Washington to step up, and for the Gulf states to redirect some of their wealth towards preventing Ethiopia's slide into mass starvation. The Biden administration must exert its influence over its Middle Eastern allies, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and most importantly the UAE, to halt the flow of arms into the Horn of Africa. Most regional powers, barring the UAE, have recognized the risks of allowing Prime Minister Abiy to pursue his expansionist ambitions unchecked. The UAE must be persuaded to exercise restraint and stop indulging in a game that threatens regional stability. Ethiopia urgently needs responsible leadership to prevent state collapse. This will require the political elite to put aside their differences and engage in an inclusive, candid national dialogue based on the federal constitution. The United States and its partners can play a crucial role in facilitating this dialogue. Once the current crisis is brought under control, Ethiopians can start to discuss a new political settlement. While Abiy can participate in this process, his voice should not overpower others. The Red Sea region's stability is in everyone's interest, and the United States should collaborate with its Middle Eastern allies, Asian and European partners, and the African Union to establish a collective security framework. A crucial aspect of this framework should be an Ethiopian government that respects the rules and is not incentivized to break them. As we conclude, the key takeaway from all of this is that Ethiopia's situation is a humanitarian catastrophe that demands immediate and sustained international attention. We cannot afford to be silent spectators as millions of lives hang in the balance. We urge you to stay informed and engaged. Use your voice to raise awareness about this crisis. Share this video with your friends, family, and social media networks. Advocate for more robust international intervention to bring an end to the violence and suffering. That's all for now. Thank you for joining us. Before we sign off, we want to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insightful news updates. Like this video if you found it informative, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement and feedback are invaluable to us. Until next time, stay informed, stay safe, and have a great day. Thank you for watching.